but you are a bad boy Yardie. And bad boy Yardies are supposed to know how to get rid of bodies.
Als meine Fantasie, als meine Fantasie. Als meine Fantasie. Als meine Fantasie. Als meine Fantasie.
I gave y'all 3 years. For the sake of this video, I'm referring to GM Worm as Wyram because that's how I see it and that's how I'm calling it. It's not a diss, it's not a shot, it's not an insult, but that's how I'm calling it. So yo, it's what it is. I first logged into the game 2 weeks before Wyram's statement about race in Gemstone, so the rumblings behind it were interesting to me. Since I played games like EverQuest, which had races that would kill on sight, this wasn't unfamiliar territory to me. Being a minority, a black man, I had first-hand experience with racism, understanding both the exaggerated portrayals in fiction and the subtle but impactful racial tactics in real life. Naturally, I know how racism works and how powerful it can be as a motif in storytelling, along with the themes that could accompany these stories. I've never shied away from it. In fact, many of us who oppose racism prefer it to be shown openly and directly rather than hidden behind ambiguity. Plus, during a time when a global pandemic kept people indoors and a police murder sparked national outrage, this community became more aware of some chapters of Gemstone's story, which echoed real-world sentiments. I was fascinated to hear different conversations about racism in Gemstone. Surprisingly, what I often heard in response to advocates for racial change bordered on denial, calling them misguided, mistaken, or unable to separate the game from real life. Conversely, when other similar issues affected their gameplay, claiming it broke their immersion and was too close to real-world events, I raised an eyebrow at those responses. However, I remained optimistic because I carried a perspective that most people do not have, and I was willing to share it. That's not to say I'm the voice of all black folks. I totally am not. But considering the limited number of black players in Gemstone, I felt I had something valuable to contribute to support Wyram's mission. And the responses to my comments were staggering. Yardie, the character, internalized, logged, and stored away matters related to social structure from lore and in-game experiences, since these things shaped him. At his brother Iskander's request, the Valorian, he traveled east to see the truth for himself instead of relying on others' interpretations, who often avoided the effort due to damaged relationships caused by racial strife established in lore. Yardie accepted that challenge. There were many surprises, some pleasant. He made some great friends, but amidst all that, others reflected the tension echoed through the lore, mirroring those circumstances voiced by many dark elves and half-elves. Whenever he tried to speak his mind and tried to do so earnestly, most people shut him down. September 2022, during the weekend of the Palestra trials, a dark elf expressed his frustrations about acceptance or the lack of it regarding his time in Vathor. You see, there were several invasions in the city, and many dark elves who wandered there and lived there decided to help in the battle. And although this wasn't intentional, and I don't think the players meant for this to happen, when NPCs and PCs commented on the aftermath, they often thanked themselves and the other Valorians rather than the others who had risked everything to help, many of them being dark elves who weren't even acknowledged. Their voices felt dismissed. This dark elf felt dismissed. As a result, that player then took it to the Discord Valor channel, and it bled into the role-playing channel on the official Discord, and the role-playing channel decided to lecture him, except for one person who wanted to open that conversation. I thank Ro Hayes for opening up that conversation and wanting to explore it, but others in response were certain that the past was the past. I had had enough. Came in, posted a damning ambiance I saw around the same time in Valor, and that opened the floodgates. It was around here that I considered making this video essay. Looking back, I don't know what I was thinking. I had never done a video essay before, and I think my eagerness to do so may have minimized the effort that followed, or the effort to learn how to do these things. But I felt then, as I do now, that discussing these matters without conversations being hijacked was important. With the support of friends and the brothers alike, I started writing. No lie, I wrote about 20 pages of material. Constructed a well-crafted essay, or at least I think it was. But I never quite mastered the video work. During the first 2 years, I faced mockery from people about my construction of this magnum opus, as they called joking around it with their friends. And yeah, I know about that too. As more issues emerged in the game and I shared my insights, I often had to defend my position, experiences, and voice against those who called the conversation racial antagonizing in a game where people wanted to escape, despite the wealth of evidence I had. Ironically, on the flip side, this escapism reminded me of the reality that I lived every day. I didn't mind that too much. What I did mind was the dishonesty. When I mentioned the desire and reluctance to deal with the backlash from a video essay, one person told me to poop or get off the pot, while others posted memes mocking the delay in their private discords. And yeah, I know about that too. After writing the essay and stealing my intentions, a few friends advised me not to post it. Some of them had stopped playing, but they were aware of the conversation and the issues involved. Many of them said they didn't want the ugly side of Gemstone to attack me for being a disruptor, and that they wanted me to enjoy my time. That was very sweet of them. They did not want me to be boxed away, a common practice when someone is marked for public shunning and isolation by the masses. Those friends politely asked me to keep it to myself, so I showed my document to those few people, but I did not record it. But the issue never went away. In fact, it got worse. Storylines, out-of-character jabs, and players who had clung to many of the racial plays that were often encouraged years ago still hung on to their beliefs. A conflict grew with opposing ideologies and practices that conflicted with the mission and vision that people claimed was the current state of Gemstone. Many tried to discredit something that was obvious to me. Attempts to even address racial tensions in character were immediately pushed aside, immediately taken down, despite some of the behavior being on brand based on the lore and based on what we know about the characters and cultures. 3 major storylines aimed to explore those scars in some way, only to face pushback. Sides were taken. Months of fighting followed, and consequences were given to enforce this unfounded belief that these issues could simply disappear by ignoring them. Look, I'm not going to get into the recent conversations of all the extent of real-world connections and conversations in Discord. I'm not getting into real-world experiences of what is accepted and how far we can go. I'm not getting into moderation. None of this is about that. I want to make that clear before someone tries to spin it. However, what became notable was that the ability to talk about personal issues and racial issues had now been challenged because of the lack of clarity. And all of that escalated quickly. But I will emphasize that, as mentioned, world experiences cannot be really discussed there. This situation handcuffed me in a terrible way, especially regarding this racial issue. Upset, I tried to take my mind off things, so I played the game that evening, only to have a character use the term darky in general thought, and other players respond with protests out of character. While I found that intention noble, the contradiction between what is written, what is explored, what is accepted to be played in character, and what is accepted in terms of how to address a solid staple manifested by the writers in the lore, added salt to a 3-year-old wound. And it was this realization that led me to revisit this topic. And while I had been constructing this video and pondering how to commence, how to get things smoothed over, and how to do this properly, on September 7th, 2025, while my daughter watched the documentary on Katrina, Hurricane Katrina, that touched on that tragedy and its racial aspects and tensions, I saw the awareness and pain in her eyes, along with the confusion. I knew that feeling all too well. It had bothered me a lot as a kid, and I'm sure it bothered a lot of people in their lives. I had to have a serious talk with her about the importance of these issues. Issues that this game explores only haphazardly or half-heartedly, then tries to ignore. Issues that have consequences when realized by those unaware. Who knows how many minorities before me, how many black people have tried to raise these concerns in this game with fidelity, with respect, and with earnest, heartfelt conversation, only to be dismissed. I gave y'all 3 years. We're about to have an uncomfortable critique of racism in lore and practice in the world of Gemstone. And I will outline what I wrote with additional insights from recent events and beyond. Every single time I had ideas and every single time I thought everything was covered, I learned something new, something scarier than the last, something more damning than the last, something unbelievable that I could not think could get any worse. Honestly, I didn't feel safe having this conversation back then with all the accusations. And on the real, I sure as hell don't feel safe now. With recent events, who knows what trouble people might blame me for? But I understand the consequences. I know the struggles of people like me, and I keep those people in my mind and heart, especially my daughter, as I undertake this tough task. They will be split into parts, and I'll do my best to finish them on time. But each video might be delayed by some time. It's a lot to cover. I also want to apologize to those who wanted me to discuss other topics like town storylines, fitting in, what they love about Gemstone, what they dislike about the game, the conversations of good and evil, conflict, and a very special talk with several people who no longer play about why they decided to leave the game. I have a lot of hope in this gaming community, but on the real, some of that hope has faded. That said, I'll do my best to fight the good fight and spark meaningful conversations to create change. I'll go down trying. Whatever happens, I've made my peace with everything. And while I'll continue to handle things in the most respectful way to avoid living up to certain stereotypes, people will believe what they want. I can't change those folks. I might not change anyone. But if I've opened even one person's eyes, I've done my job. With that in mind, welcome to an exploration of racial strife in the world of Gemstone 4.